Hi, hello, a very good afternoon. I hope you're all having a great day today. I would like to start today's session by first saying a big thank you for joining me in today's webinar. This is Sharada Murthy from the marketing team of Manage Engine, and I will be your presenter for today. Before we jump into today's session, I would like to quickly check if my voice is audible and the display is well and clear. If you can hear me, if my voice is audible, please drop in a yes message in the chat box so I know that I'm good to go. If my voice is audible and the display is clear, please drop a yes message in the chat box. All right, great. Thank you so much. So yes, we are going to be talking about how to tighten security in your organization, especially against cyber threats, with the help of multi-factor authentication. We are going to be talking about how we can achieve this using ADSelfService Plus, Manage Engine's integrated password self-service and single sign-on solution. I'm sure you all know how authentication works, but this is a quick view or a picture that depicts the flow of how this is going to work with respect to ADSelfService Plus or with respect to your native Windows logon. So initially, the very first thing that happens when you type or when a user types their username and password is that they have seamless access to their account without going through a secondary factor of authentication. And I'm sure you agree with me when I say that most of the users in your organization adapt to weak passwords so that it is easy for them to remember to be able to log in and access. For example, the word password itself, organization name at 123, their birth date, very personal things like that. Passwords that are weak are one of the major reasons why we need to boost up security, because we do understand the importance of cyber threats, especially in today's era where we are seeing almost a 276%. So this is the report comparison between 2016 and 17. There has been a 276% increase in cyber threats. And one of the easiest way to attack your system, your network, is with the help of passwords. So we are going to be talking about how to use ADSelfService Plus, our password management solution, and how to work your way around adding additional layer of security right from the very first step, which is gaining access to your Windows machine. And we're also going to be talking about how to secure the password reset process. So the agenda goes, we are going to be talking about improving password security using ADSelfService Plus, starting from enforcing a two-factor authentication for your Windows logons. We're going to be talking about securing the self-service password reset process or account unlock process with multi-factor authentication. We're also going to granularly enforce multi-factor authenticators based on OUs and groups present in the Active Directory, and also enforce two-factor authentications for not only your Windows Active Directory, but several on-premises and cloud applications as well. So when I talk about Windows logon two-factor authentication, this is typically what I mean. The first factor of authentication would be nothing but the user's Windows logon credentials, that is their username and password, which could be compromised because of the increase of security threats. And that is where we are going to be laying our first layer or additional layer of security. So with the help of Windows Logon two-factor authentication, which can be applied using ADSelfService Plus, we are going to verify the user's identity either via SMS or email-based verification codes. You can make use of Duo Security, RSA Secure ID, or the Radius password Radius server-based authentication in order to verify the user's identity. Once again, go through a secondary factor of authentication before gaining access to the Windows logon machine itself. Because we are talking about providing one-click seamless access to multiple applications, we are talking about NTLM single sign-on, we are talking about SAML single sign-on, wherein one-click access to the Windows logon machine will grant access to multiple on-premises and cloud applications. So the very first step that you need to take to ensure that your organization's cyber security is tightened is by adding an additional layer of security at the very first step at the Windows logon itself. So with that said, I'm going to quickly jump to the ADSelfService Plus portal and walk you through how it would work in a typical atmosphere, quickly configure two-factor authentication, and then go through how it would work with the help of, or if the two-factor authentication has been enabled using ADSelfService Plus. Also, if you have any questions during the webinar, please keep them coming. We have our product expert joining us in the session today to answer your questions, so he'll be there to answer your questions. I will also take your questions personally at the end of the session. And if you do want a quick recap of anything that's happening in today's session, please feel free to drop in a message. I will quickly go through the configuration steps for you. And yes, also the video of this particular workshop and the resource material will be available online. But if you would like to receive a personal copy, all you have to do is drop in your mail ID in the chat box provided, and I will ensure that you get a mail with the resource material of today's webinar. So yes, with that said, I am going to quickly take in a remote desktop session for the user, Sharada. Let me log in. So yes, I'm sure this is typically how it works for you as well. For all the users in your organization, you enter the password and you're immediately logged in and you have access to your Windows environment. But what we're trying to do here is improve the security in your organization by simply adding an additional check. So I've logged into the ADSelfService Plus portal as an administrator. You can see that I already have my domain settings configured right here. I'm working with the domain SSP workshop. I'm going to jump to the configuration tab. Under the advanced settings, I'm going to move to login two-factor authentication. Simply check this box. Go through the email verification code so I can show you how this works. Click on OK. And since it has been successfully updated for this policy, I'm going to redo the Windows logon process for Sharada. Connecting. Let me give in my Windows logon credentials. This time, I am redirected to the ADSelfService Plus secondary factor of verification page. That is my additional layer of security which is being enforced on users in this particular policy. So all I have to do now is choose my email address and continue. I have a verification code that is sent to me via email. What if I try to bypass this method? I have a prompt which says you must complete both steps of authentication to login, so please try again. And the session ends, the remote session ends. So this is exactly what we're trying to achieve. So if I had given in the Windows logon credentials, and then also verified my identity using the verification code method of authentication, then I have absolutely no problem, a quick access to my Windows logon, and I'm good to go, And I know that users in my organization are secure. But if I try to bypass, I am not allowed. So I'm going to quickly walk you through how simple it is to configure two-factor authentication using ADSelfService Plus. I'm going to walk you through the configuration steps. So the first thing that you need to remember is to enable login two-factor authentication for a particular policy, for a particular self-service policy that I've created under the configuration tab under self-service right there. I have a self-service policy by the name admin, and I have given Windows two-factor authentication permission to users in this particular policy. Also, under the administrative tools, under Gina Mac installation, I need to ensure that the Gina installation is up and running for my computer. I had done this prior to the session. Also, once that is checked, I also need to enable Windows logon two-factor authentication at this particular tab in the administrative tools, that is Gina Mac, to enforce the Windows logon TFA. And once this is done, I also need to take a call as an administrator to choose if users can bypass two-factor authentication when the ADSelfService Plus server is down. So this is completely up to you. You can see that I've done this configuration as well. Quickly check if my configuration access URL matches with my ADSelfService Plus machine that I'm running in. Yes, it does. And that is how simple it is to set up Windows two-factor authentication and keep it running for users in your organization. A simple two-step process: enable two-factor authentication and enforce Windows logon two-factor authentication. Two simple steps to ensure, and this will boost up your security in so many levels that you know weak passwords cannot be an excuse anymore, and you know that your organization is secure from cyber security threats. All right, so this was the very first step of today's session, enforcing two-factor authentication using Windows logon. Very simple, a simple two-step process, and this can be achieved using ADSelfService Plus. This is going to make all the difference, and yes, but once I have secured users login to their Windows, I also need to ensure that the process of resetting accounts or unlocking accounts need to be secure as well. Because believe me when I say this, when hackers try to break into your system, which is constantly increasing, it is very important for you to ensure that the password reset process is given equal importance. Why? Because one of the easiest way to break into your network, to break into a system, is by misusing a user's identity. It is believed that 80% of the attacks that happen in today's world is because of the 20% of commonly known attacking techniques. And believe me when I say this, the attacking technique that tops the list is password-based attacks. And one of the easiest ways to break into your network is by misusing a user's identity. And that is why it is very important to secure not only users' login, but also to equally give importance and secure the password reset process and the account unlock process, which is possible with the help of ADSelfService Plus. So jumping back to the ADSelfService Plus portal, I'm going to go back to the configuration tab. And this time, I'm going to add a new policy. give it the name HR, give permission for reset password, selecting OUs and groups. I'm working with the organizational unit HR right there. I'm going to save this policy. My policy has been successfully updated. Let me quickly show you what I've done in the background, opening my Active Directory users and computers. What I've done is created an organizational unit. I've created an organizational unit under my name, Sharada, and I've created test OUs trying to replicate an organizational structure, admin, finance, and HR, and added a couple of users in each of these organizational units. So typically, if you notice the self-service policy that I'm creating right here from the ADSelfService Plus portal falls in the same structure. So now that I've created the policy HR and given permissions for resetting passwords, I'm going to open a new tab and try to log in as a user. Let me log in as Adam, giving in the password. I have a prompt which says, your password is expired, so please see your system administrator. But this is not the scenario that I want a user to end up in, because this is definitely going to end up in a help desk call. And the purpose of deploying ADSelfService Pardon me. So this is going to end up as a help desk call, and the purpose of deploying ADSelfService Plus is to work towards not only reducing help desk calls, but completely eliminating them. And this is not the prompt that I would want a user in my organization to see. So in this case, what I would typically do as a user is head to the Forgot Your Password tab to try and reset my password. Let me give in the captcha. I'm guessing that's a 9. All right, so I have another prompt that says, you are required to enroll with security questions. So please log in if you remember your password and enroll, or contact your administrator in case you don't. Once again, we have hit a dead end. This is definitely going to go to the help desk. I'm going to reach out to my administrator and say that I'm unable to reset my password. I also don't remember my password. My password is expired. Please help me reset my password. So if this is going to end up as a help desk call, then ADSelfService Plus does not serve its purpose. Let me quickly give you a tip, a way around how you can avoid help desk calls because of non-enrolled users or forgotten passwords. I'm going to head there right now, and the answer is right here. Multi-factor authentication. So by default, ADSelfService Plus uses the security question answer method of authentication as your second factor of authentication for all password resets and account unlocks. So when a user has not logged into their ADSelfService Plus portal and given the answer for the security question, the process of resetting the password is automatically denied. That is exactly what happened with Adam. What I'm going to do now is try and log in as another user, Sharada, and show you that since I've enabled two-factor authentication, I have to verify my identity here as well. Clicking on continue, I have an email verification code. Let me quickly access my Gmail account. keying in the password. I do have a code that I've received just now. I'm going to quickly copy paste the code and click on continue. And once I have a successful access to my ADSelfService Plus portal, under the enrollment tab, you can see that the user Sharada has already enrolled with the security question answer method of authentication. So when Sharada tries to go through a password reset process, which I'm going to show you right away, what happens is that I will have to answer my security questions, enter the CAPTCHA before the time left for operation, and I will be redirected to the reset password page. But this is not how it worked for Adam. I am redirected to the reset password page. And this is not how it worked for Adam, simply because Adam failed to enroll with the security question answer method of authentication. But you as an administrator can enable the non-enrollment mode of verification, which is the verification code. Why do I call this the non-enrolled way of verification? Is that the user does not have to manually go and give in their email address or phone number, because the Active Directory attribute is automatically fetched. So what I'm going to do now is choose the policy HR, go to verification code, enable verification code via email, send a secure link via email, save this setting, and show you how this works differently for Adam right now. So I'm hitting forgot your password, giving in the domain username Adam, entering the CAPTCHA. So this is how simple it is to add an additional layer of security, because we have to come to terms with the fact that passwords are not enough. No matter how many layers I'm sorry about that. So we have to come to terms with the fact that passwords are not enough. No matter how many layers of security you add to your password, no matter how much complex policies you add, increase the length, increase complexity, add numerals, numbers, we have to come to terms that by simply adding an additional layer of security, by adding a secondary factor of authentication, you are making a lot of difference. And this is very important for us as organizations, and it can be easily achieved using ADSelfService Plus. So yes, once the verification code method of authentication is enabled for the user Adam, I did not have a prompt saying I haven't enrolled, because this is the only method which is an enrollment-free method. The user does not have to manually go and enroll. And I would definitely recommend the verification code over the security question answers, because come on, my best friend knows the answers to my favorite color, my dream destination, my pet's name, and a lot of other personal questions like that. Whereas the verification code is sent to my email address or mobile number, which I believe is something that is personal, a device that we own. And it definitely is a better and safer method compared to the traditional and most widely used security question answer method of authentication. So let me go forward with this. Let me try and go forward with this. I have a message which says an email has been sent along with my email address. So what I've done is, to make it easy for all the users, I've created one common email address and added it to all the users' that I've created under this test OU. So we are going to be receiving a mail for Adam right here in the same email address, a password reset confirmation. Once I click, I am redirected to the reset password page wherein I can go forward and reset Adam's password, enter the captcha, and I am good to go. Yes, that is how simple it is to secure the password reset process. That's how simple it is to add an additional layer of security to ensure that users in your organization go through a secure password reset or account unlock process. You also have the assurance that the user's identity is not misused. You can go about and add more layers of security when it comes to your password reset process. This can be achieved using ADSelfService Plus. So let me quickly walk you through that as well. Let me go back to multi-factor authentication, to my admin portal right there, configuration tab, multi-factor authentication. So when I said that you can add multiple factors of authentication, you can customize this based on OUs and groups present in your Active Directory. For instance, users belonging to the policy HR who have permission only to reset their password can reset or go through a security question answer method of authentication or the verification code. Whereas users belonging to admin will have to go through the Google Authenticator. For instance, let me save the setting. You can go about and try Duo Security, RSA Secure ID. Based on your convenience, we also have the ADSelfService Plus mobile app authenticator, which allows push notification, fingerprint, QR, and time-based one-time passwords. This is a lot more secure than your native SMS verification code. We also support SAML authentication. So you can enable SAML authentication and configure using either Okta One Login or a custom SAML app. So yes, you can add multiple verification authenticators right there, depending on how much priority a particular user or a particular organization or group has. So I've added additional layer of authenticators for the policy admin. So when I hit the advanced setting for admin right there, you can see that security question answer, verification code, and Google Authenticator is enabled. You as an administrator can also set a particular method as mandatory. You can set multiple methods as mandatory. You can also reorder the sequence in which you would like users to verify their identity. And in this way, not only do you customize different authenticators based on policies or groups present, policies in ADSelfService Plus, which is nothing but OUs or groups present in your Active Directory, but you can also do this in a granular way. So you can enforce a particular authenticator. You can reorder the sequence in which you want users to authenticate their identity, and all this can be achieved using ADSelfService Plus. So if a user fails to meet a particular method of authentication, they will not be allowed to perform a particular self-service action. And in the case of two-factor authentication, they would obviously not be allowed to log in to the system unless you, as an administrator, give them the permission to override two-factor authentication in case of the ADSelfService Plus server being down. So this applies to remote users as well. So if you have users in your organization who travel around the world for work and have trouble going through password resets, account unlocks, or if you would like to secure the login process, all this can be done from one single console, and that is achievable using ADSelfService Plus. So to allow users to go through a seamless password reset process, all you need to do is enable the VPN settings. So once I enable the VPN settings, we support custom VPN as well. Users will be able to access the ADSelfService Plus server, which will update the credentials, the cache credentials over the VPN, thereby not giving in any problem with your Active Directory password sync, by which I mean when a user is not in the organization's network, they will still be able to successfully reset their password as a remote user once you have enabled the VPN settings and given them the access. So there's a stepwise guide to help you set this up. This is typically how it works. So when a password reset request takes place, after a successful password reset, with the help of the VPN, the cache credentials, the password is updated, verified, and then the cache password is updated in your Active Directory. So you can go ahead and set this up and see how this works for users in your organizations, remote users in your organizations, and do not have to worry about password related help desk calls or resetting passwords for remote users anymore. So when I started this session, I spoke about how important it is to not only secure your organization's access, not only secure access to users' computers, not only secure the password reset process. There's also very, very important to ensure that the process is easy, user-friendly, and at the end of the day, the sole purpose of a password self-service tool like ADSelfService Plus is to work towards eliminating password-related help desk calls. And I'm sure with customization options available in ADSelfService Plus, you as an administrator can explore, see what works best for your organization. You can also contact us for a personalized demo or an expert advice of how you want to troubleshoot a particular issue that you're facing in your organization with respect to passwords, with respect to password security, with respect to reducing help desk calls with the help of ADSelfService Plus, and we can work our way around right here in this particular console and choose what suits best for your particular organization. So these are how I would suggest or how I would go about setting up in my organization. This is how we work here. But yes, we all work differently, so it's very, very important to explore how this works. For instance, if you notice, I gave the permission for resetting passwords, that is the self-service password reset permission for users belonging to HIPAA. And I gave permissions for all the self-service actions, reset, unlock, self-update, and change password for users belonging to admin. But if I have users overlapping between groups or OUs, then the precedence of this particular policy that is available in the policy configuration is very, very important. And since I've worked with this particular setup multiple times, I'm aware of which user belongs to which organizational unit. But when you work with ADSelfService Plus for the very first time, it is very important to note the precedence of which policy takes over the other. And that is important in an organizational level, because when we talk about security, when we talk about uncompromised security, but at the same time, when we're talking about simplifying the password reset process, simplifying access, self-update, and giving permissions for users, giving in the torch of self-service to handing it out to the users, we also need to focus on the security aspect in the organizational level, not just with respect to threats. And it is very, very important to look at minute details like the precedence of policies right here, for instance. So yes, so that's just one thing that came in the top of my mind when I was talking about uh, giving permissions to users, adding additional layer of security, different authenticators based on policies present in ADSelfService Plus. You as an IT administrator or an IT specialist or IT security expert will be the best person to take this call for your organization. So all you have to do is jump in, explore ADSelfService Plus, explore the customization options with ADSelfService Plus, go explore the multi-factor authenticators available, see what best suits for your users, for your organizations, for different users, granularly choose which policy works for which user, and then go about setting it up using ADSelfService Plus. All right, so with that said, I'm going to quickly jump to the reset password page once again and show you how the precedents that we had worked with, the multi-factor authenticators, is going to display right now. Clicking on continue. So if you remember when we were working with the user Sharada, let me do that once again for you. I just had a lag. I'm going to do that again. So when we configured the multi-factor authentication method for Sharada, we had enabled Google Authenticator as the first factor of authentication, and we made it mandatory. But I have a pop-up which now says that you're required to enroll with Google Authenticator app. So please log in if you remember your password and enroll. So what I'm going to do is quickly jump and log in as Sharada. And once again, I have to verify my identity. So yes, let me quickly open my Gmail account. Check if I've received a code. Yes, I have. Let me quickly paste my email verification code. Check, trust this browser, click on continue. And yes, I have a pop-up which says you have to click here to complete your enrollment. And this time when I jump to the enrollment tab, I have a star against all the methods that has been enabled for the user Sharada, for the policy admin. So you can see that by default, my Active Directory attribute has been automatically fetched, but I also have a choice to go and add another email address. And once I go to Google Authenticator, the installation steps are listed right there. Also, I've enrolled with security question answers. So the pop-up is because I'd failed to enroll with Google Authenticator. And since I had made all the three methods of authentication mandatory for the users belonging to the policy admin right there, Sharada's right there, I will not be able to proceed with a password reset or an account unlock process without completing this particular authentication or enrollment. Also, when I go to the My Info tab right here, I'm still asked to enroll, so I will not be able to perform any other action. And under the Applications tab as well, you can see Google Apps available or listed right there. I've configured single sign-on for G Suite. So when I add two-factor authentication and when I enable two-factor authentication as an admin, under the configuration tab, under advanced setting of a particular policy, when I enable two-factor authentication, the login two-factor authentication, this is enforced for my ADSelfService Plus portal as well. So the major advantage that this plays is that, like I said, when you enable Windows logon two-factor authentication, if you have NTLM single sign-on enabled in your system, the minute you log into your Windows logon, you have a seamless access to all your single sign-on enabled applications. But whereas if you work only with your SAML single sign-on, then you will have to log into the ADSelfService Plus portal and navigate to the Applications tab to click and access G Suite, Office 365, and all the other on-premises and cloud-based applications. So to secure access to multiple single sign-on applications, it is very important to enable login two-factor authentication for your ADSelfService Plus domain user login as well. And once this is done, not only is your Windows logon secured, you're also securing the process of logging in and accessing multiple single sign-on based applications. So one of the biggest concern when it comes to single sign-on is that when a user breaks in or when there's a threat to a particular user's account, they basically have access to all the applications, all the single sign-on enabled applications. But that is exactly where we add the additional layer of security. We say you have to verify yourself twice to be able to access your G Suite, your Office 365. But once your secondary layer of authentication is done, then you have one-click seamless access to not one, not two, but more than 100 applications, as long as you as an administrator have given permission for all these applications. So this, once again, is purely based on OUs and groups present in the Active Directory. So you as an administrator can basically control access to multiple applications, on-premises and cloud-based applications, using self-service policies that you create in ADSelfService Plus. You as an administrator can enforce a two-factor authentication, add an additional layer of security for several on-premises and cloud-based applications, restrict access for both NTLM and SAML-based single sign-on. You as an administrator can customize different multi-factor authentications based on OUs and groups present in the Active Directory. You can also secure not only the access to your Windows logon, not only the access to users' Windows logon, but also secure the password reset and account unlock process, which is equally very, very important. And all this can be done using one single solution, and that is what we call ADSelfService Plus. So what I'm going to quickly do is pass on the workshop setup. I'm also going to quickly guide you to the ADSelfService Plus demo. So we have a live workshop setup up and running. I'm going to pass on the link to you. You can log in, explore ADSelfService Plus, and see how it works for you, for users in your organization. And we also have a demo setup. So let me quickly jump to the ADSelfService Plus portal and guide you to the right resources before I sign off from today's session. Right there. So you have a fully functional demo available. You can also set up a personalized demo to see or learn the best practices from our product experts. You also have a fully functional demo right there. I'm also going to quickly take you to our resource page. So we have help documents listed to guide you through the A to Z of how to work with ADSelfService Plus. We also have a dedicated knowledge base article page right there. Tips and tricks on helping to make the best use of ADSelfService Plus. We also have white papers listed right here. A dedicated forum and 24/5 support. So you can drop in a call anytime you have any trouble. Also, you can drop in a mail to me at sharada@manageengine.com. If you have any questions regarding today's session, if you require any particular resource material or any queries with respect to ADSelfService Plus, please feel free to drop in a mail to me at sharada@manageengine.com and I will get back to you at the earliest. You can also contact my support team. You can reach out to them at support@ADSelfServicePlus.com. If you have any trouble configuring or working with ADSelfService Plus, any feature requests, they are the best people to let you know. They are the best resources that we have got to help you, guide you, work with ADSelfService Plus and make the best use of it. And I really hope that you learned about how to add an additional layer of security, how to improve your organization, how to protect your organization from cyber threats, how to tighten security using multi-factor authenticator, right from securing your Windows logon all the way to securing the password reset or account unlock process. All this with ADSelfService Plus. All right, so now is our dedicated question and answer session. If you have any questions, please keep them coming. I'm going to take time to answer every single one of them. Also, if you require the video of this particular session, drop in a mail to me in the questions tab, or you can drop in your email address in the questions tab, and I will ensure that the resource material reaches you at the earliest. On that note, I would like to say that we have come to the end of today's session. I really hope that the session was informative and you learned about how to work with ADSelfService Plus. I would like to apologize about my voice. And yes, please drop in your feedback, comments, suggestions, and what you look forward to in the upcoming sessions, because that is what motivates us and keeps me pushing to do better in the upcoming session. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for taking time away from your busy schedule to attend today's webinar. It was an immense pleasure to be the host of today's session. I had a great time presenting. I really hope that you learned something about working your way with tightening security against cyber threats using multi-factor authentication with the help of ADSelfService Plus. On that note, this is Sharada Murthy, product expert in ADSelfService Plus from the marketing team of Manage Engine, signing off for today. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead.